Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are, what time you are listening to this. My name is Winston, the host of the Revenue Alignment Podcast. And this week, the topic I'm bringing to you guys is how marketing can better align with sales to drive the entire funnel and business outcomes. And of course, business outcomes, we mostly talk about revenue here. So the thing about it is that I've realized B2B marketers tend to focus their strategy on only driving the top of the funnel and in some cases middle of funnel where the consideration phase happens rather than the entire funnel. And I think this is where B2C gets it right, where most B2B marketers still haven't. Because in B2C marketing, there often isn't a sales team. So when leads are coming in top of funnel, there's not a sales team or SDRs to pass on qualified leads to. Marketing is responsible for driving the leads as well as converting those leads to paying customers. Now, before you say selling a $50 sneakers isn't the same as selling a $100K product, that is true. It's not. But the reason I know not to use that as an excuse is because I've worked with B2C clients. In particular, I can remember this one client where their lowest costing item was just under $1,000 US, and their highest costing item was over $2,000 US. And the marketing team still had to drive sales with not even 10% of the budget that the typical B2B marketing team would have. So I think the real point I'm trying to make here is if B2B marketers really want to start to prove their value, we have to stop thinking about top of funnel brand or just leads, but we have to think about how our marketing drives the entire funnel. Even when we drive qualified leads and pass them on to sales, we should still be partnering with sales to figure out how we can close those deals and drive revenue. It's not about marketing sourced versus sales sourced. It's about collaboration to drive the entire business, regardless of who is getting majority of the credit. Because if the entire business wins, then everybody wins. Sales win, marketing wins, everybody wins. Now, to be fair, this isn't something we were taught, and often we never got the mentorship from experienced marketers to know this. I mean, just 2 years ago, I would never think about a full funnel marketing approach because I wasn't exposed to that information or way of thinking. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this podcast, more specifically with this episode, to introduce you to a different perspective, a different way of thinking, and a different way of really seeing marketing's role within your organization and how you can add value and, more importantly, be valued. And as I learn and grow, I share what I know so we can learn and grow together, of course. Now, recently I had Thibaut and, did an interview with him a few weeks back. You can go back and listen to that episode. And one of the advice he spoke about where marketing and sales alignment is concerned is around having revenue milestones. So when marketing helps sales hit a specific revenue milestone, they are compensated. And, one of the ways I think would be valuable to marketing teams is if that compensation goes towards increasing marketing's budget. So for every revenue milestone hit, 10% goes towards the marketing budget in addition to the already established budget for the year. So that way, it incentivizes more marketers to really focus on driving revenue and not just, we spoke about it, vanity metrics, things that it looks good on paper, but doesn't really help to drive business outcomes. And that's where we really want to focus on driving business outcomes. Now, the question is, how do we do this? How do we execute marketing in a way that aligns with sales to drive the entire funnel and business outcomes? There's a framework I've been testing and continuously refining over the last 4 years called a revenue alignment framework, which looks on how to align both marketing and sales using both inbound and outbound methodologies. So first, I started out calling it the buying process, but realized that was a commonly used term in marketing. So next, I call it the the content sales conversion framework, and now it's the revenue alignment framework. So it's gone through several iterations and several name changes, but that's a good thing because I started creating it 3 to 4 years ago, so it couldn't be the same thing today as it was 3 to 4 years ago, because the marketer I am today isn't the same marketer I was 3 to 4 years ago. I've improved, I've gotten better, and who knows, 4 years from now it may end up morphing into something else, because I'm continuously improving and getting better every single day. As a matter of fact, just last week, I was speaking with a marketing leader that follows me for some time, and she said to me, Winston, I'm listening to your podcast, and how you sound in terms of how I articulate myself and my points, how you sound today is not how you sounded a year ago, and it's obvious that you've improved and gotten better. So just a tidbit for you guys, as a marketer, you should have people commenting on your growth throughout your entire career. Never stop learning just because you got the degree or you've reached a senior position in the company. Alright, so enough babbling. Let's get into it. Let's look on this framework. So the framework is broken down into 3 stages. There's brand activation, demand and lead generation, and sales conversion. Brand activation is where brand marketing takes place and everything that comes with marketing activities that cannot be directly attributed to revenue, such as starting a podcast, hosting virtual or live events, or creating TikTok videos for brand building purposes, right? Demand and lead generation is where revenue activities take place that marketers can and should use to attribute their activities to revenue. Now, it's important to note that 60 to, I would probably say 80% of marketing's time and budget should be spent here, and only 10 to 20% on branding. The final stage is the sales conversion stage, which is used to nurture delayed or stagnant accounts that need to be reactivated or re-engaged using a program specifically created to move these delayed or stagnant pipeline opportunities to close. Now, the aspect we're going to focus on, or the stage we're going to focus on in this episode, is the second stage, which is the demand and lead generation stage, because that's mostly where marketing and sales alignment takes place. Now, this stage is further broken down into 3 more stages. So, the first stage within this, we have the buyer sales process mapping. The second stage, we have marketing sales process flow. And the third stage, we have content mapping. Now, the first stage, the buyer sales process mapping, is how it sounds. What it does is look at the buying process of how your customers typically buy from you. Then it looks at the sales process of how your company sells, specifically outbound sales. And it maps both to each other, with marketing mostly driving the entire interaction and experience. So think of it as 2 cliffs. Let me see if I can give you guys an analogy here. As a matter of fact, let's make it visual. If you're able to get out a piece of paper, we have to do this together since I'm doing this as an audio. So on the extreme left of the paper, draw a cliff, and on the extreme right of the paper, draw a second cliff. Now, both cliffs should be opposite to each other. Now, finally, draw a line that connects both cliffs. The cliff on the left represents your buyers and their buying process. The cliff on the right represents your sales team and your company's sales process. The line connecting both is the bridge, and that bridge represents marketing. Therefore, marketing is a bridge that connects your buyers and your sales team. Marketing is a bridge that connects your buyer's buying process to your company's sales process. So marketing helps to move buyers through the buying process and their buyer's journey, while also helping sales make their interaction with buyers at different stages of the funnel more meaningful and effective. whether those interactions are with inbound leads or with outbound leads. The important thing here is that both marketing and sales are in synergy with the buyer's journey to create a seamless and frictionless process for the buyer throughout the entire buying process. Now, in order for this to be effective, there are two things you need to be very, very clear on. The first one is understanding how your current customers find and purchase what you offer and being able to reverse engineer that to create their buying process. So don't just make up something based on what you think it is. This is where customer research comes in. Really understanding your customers, understanding their motivations for buying, and then that buying process, mapping it and reverse engineering it. The second thing to be very clear on is a predictable and repeatable process for how your sales team does outbound sales. Now, the second stage is marketing sales process flow. This is where we get deeper into marketing and sales alignment, where both are working together to move buyers through the pipeline and close deals through product demo videos, sales enablement content, case studies, sales FAQs, and so on. The point is, both are working together towards the same end goal of converting a lead into a sales opportunity and a sales opportunity into a customer. So how this would look is marketing does demand gen using problem and solution awareness content and distributing it to the company's ideal individual buyer personas to position the brand as an authority in its space. This then drives inbound leads in this instance. At the same time, marketing is also doing the same with account-based marketing, but the difference here is the distribution of content is both to targeted accounts and the function within those accounts that are decision makers and influencers, rather than just your broad ideal client profile. So while this is happening, then we have sales that's doing their outbound outreach, right? So this is outbound lead gen. So marketing targeting these accounts with branded specific type content, customized content for these accounts, while sales is doing the outreach. So therefore, some buyers will come inbound from the thought leadership content, the demand gen content that can be qualified and passed to sales, and then you have other buyers will become leads through sales outbound efforts from the target accounts using ABM or account-based marketing. So this alignment works because marketing warms up those accounts with content while sales does outreach to those warmed up accounts. Now, at the beginning of this process of the funnel, marketing takes the lead and uses content as an introduction to the brand. So they're driving awareness, interest, and demand. Once that demand is created, sales now takes over the lead while marketing supports to help sales close the leads that were generated, whether those leads came inbound or it was from outbound lead generation. Now, this alignment works best when you can draw out a visual representation of how the entire buying and sales process will look. So you're noting where paid ads come in, what landing pages will be created, and where in the process will they be created. Where will call to actions be that converts a website visitor to a lead, and a lead to a sales opportunity. When will discovery sessions be done by sales, and what happens with a lead after a session? Where, if necessary, will we have retargeting ads if you're implementing that as a tactic? And also, if we need to nurture leads to close, where throughout the buyer's journey will that take place? So therefore, the entire process is drawn and mapped out so everyone knows at what point will marketing interact with the buyer and be the lead, and then at what point will sales interact with the buyer and be the lead. So there's no confusion by anyone when, where, or what role they will play throughout the entire buyer's journey and what needs to happen next. The final step or the final stage is content mapping. This is where we are creating specific pieces of content throughout the entire buyer's journey depending on what stage of the process that buyer is at, and map it to that specific stage. So buyers who just have affinity for the brand but may not be in a buying mode will create branded content around topics that are of interest to our audience in audio or video format that either educates or entertains them in that instance. So the goal here is to keep the brand top of mind until they're in a buying mode. Then we have demand and lead gen content that is focused on bringing awareness to a problem your solution can solve for and helping buyers become aware of the problem and aware of the solution through content. So how this would look like is, let's say we have a piece of content and the title is, "Here's why your customers are failing to buy." In this instance, that would be problem awareness content. The solution awareness content would be our B2B framework for driving more qualified leads and sales for your company. And then you have the final stage is bottom of funnel, where you have your sales enablement and conversion focused content to turn opportunities to actual customers and clients. So we're looking at content such as, let's use for example, how iCAD use Paperflight to drive account engagement and increase win rates by 13%. So everything is broken down to a meticulous and detailed level. And that is how you align both functions in a strategic and intentional way. And that is how you can break it down, where you can carry something to your CFO or your CEO, whoever it is at the C-suite that you report to. And you can have that entire process mapped out to say, all right, this is our plan. This is what we're going to use to drive inbound leads. We're going to use 10 to 20% of the budget as, for branding purposes. And, you can break down to them how brand can actually help. I've done that in previous episodes, how you can actually use brand to quantify and justify to C-suites, why you need to spend on brand. I hope this was valuable and helpful for you. I try to keep the episodes where I'm just talking through a mic by myself as short as possible, and keep the interviews, the episodes with the interviews for the longer form content. So next week we have an amazing guest, where this guest will be talking about proving marketers impact your CFOs to secure bigger budgets. And listen, you do not want to miss that episode. I am telling you. Guys, I am telling you, you do not want to miss that episode. I mean, Tyrell threw down in that episode with some great content for us marketers on how to better align with CFOs in your company. So you definitely don't want to miss that episode. So mark your calendars for that one. Alright guys, so until then, this has been the Revenue Alignment Podcast, and that is a wrap. This has been the Revenue Alignment Podcast. Join us next week where we have more amazing content to help you demonstrate, communicate, and prove your value at the C-suite level. I'm Winston, your host, and this is a wrap.